Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the jerk-off who picked Curtis Blaydes to defeat Sergey Pavlovich and John Jones, kinda. I think I went a little too heavy on Curtis Blaydes, but look, I actually stand by the Jones prediction, to be honest. I think he's a very unique, stylistic matchup for Jones, but I also feel that way about Pavlovich with the Blaydes. Not that he's very unique, I guess, but he is of that ilk that can put Blaydes away. With Ngannou and Lewis and now Pavlovich, those are the three guys that put away Curtis Blaydes, and it's no coincidence they're the three hardest punching heavyweights today, and maybe of all time. You know, they're definitely the three most powerful guys that I can think of. And Curtis Blaydes, he has to have doubts in his own chin, and I'm sure the plan was to get Pavlovich down, but he didn't get going early enough. And even if he did, I'm not sure he had the takedown prowess to get Sergey Pavlovich down. Once he shot, he was a little compromised in my opinion, but Sergey Pavlovich stuffed that shot like it was nothing. And from that point on, it was clear to me that the finish was an eventuality. And he got him out of there, I don't know, 2-3 minutes into the fight. But great win for Pavlovich. Just another one, man, a top heavyweight. And he beats them in pretty much all the same fashion. Sometimes it's closer to like 30 seconds, I guess. But Curtis Blaydes didn't have really any success against Pavlovich. He landed some nice jabs and a few nice right hands, but that was really it. Pavlovich was leading the dance, and Curtis needed a takedown. He couldn't get it. I don't know what that says about John Jones' chances against Pavlovich, but I'll say this. As the guy who was looking for Curtis Blaydes to fight John Jones, especially now that I know it's probably an impossibility, I think Pavlovich is the next best guy. Easily much better than somebody like a Derek Lewis or even Stipe Miocic, in my opinion. I have a lot of doubts about Stipe, just physically, to be honest, regarding his health as a fighter or a firefighter. But Pavlovich, he's no firefighter. He's a pure MMA fighter, 30 years old or whatever he is. He's in his prime. He's a big, strong guy. And there's only one time he's been bested, and it was by Alistair Overeem when he was, 26 or something? Overeem should have won that fight, and he did. I'm not sure there's anybody who should win the fight against Pavlovich now. So, sky's the limit. I don't know what's going to happen next. I do think Stipe is going to fight John Jones, but it's probably going to be in October or something like that. So Sergey may need to fight another time, but if he doesn't, he's worthy of a title shot right now. I mean, just steamrolling Curtis Blaydes, Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa like that. I suppose they can match him up with Cyril Gane, but if Cyril Gane wins that fight, I don't think anybody's going to want to see him fight John Jones. Then again, John Jones might fucking retire, like he said, so what do I know? But, again, Pavlovich was the... he is in a prime position to fight for a title, and Curtis Blaydes, he may never reach the title again. Not that he ever reached it, but he may be that guy that just, he was always hovering around a title shot but never quite got it. Bruno Silva knocked out Brad Tavares. That was a fight that was fun while it lasted. I did think Brad looked really good early on for the first half of that fight, first 2 minutes, let's say. He was definitely winning the fight, leading the dance, and Bruno looked really flustered, kind of. He just wasn't getting off. And then there was a moment where he flipped the switch, and he started countering, and then he started attacking after that. And it wasn't long before his power caught Brad with a big hook, and he got him out of there. Another big victory for Bruno Silva. This is a guy that I think a lot of people, myself included, were concerned with after he lost to Gerald Meerschaert, and the way he lost to Gerald Meerschaert. He looked kind of flustered in that fight, and then in the end he was almost knocked out and then tapped out. So it really just wasn't a good look, but here he beats a guy who's been a contender and a ranked fighter for a long time, and it's his finest moment so far. Great win for Bruno Silva. For Brad, it sucks. Brad's been in the UFC for a long time, and now he's been finished 4 times, not including the illegal head kick on the Ultimate Fighter, or soccer kick. But Yeah, this is a rough loss for him. 35 years old. And, now even though he went the distance with Dricus du Plessis in his last one, he still took a beating in that one. And here in this fight, he gets knocked out in a fight in which he was doing well in. So it sucks. But, hopefully he sticks around and he's still a capable fighter. Bobby Green and Jared Gordon. Look, my thoughts on that fight are the same as Kevin Holland versus Kyle Dawkins last year. It was a headbutt. A headbutt knocked him down. He was knocked out shortly thereafter. Kevin Holland was choked out shortly thereafter. But I can't dismiss the headbutt. It absolutely led to the finish. And I was hoping and picking Bobby Green to get the finish. But that wasn't legitimate in my opinion, even though Bobby Green did what he needed to do afterwards. For Jared Gordon, I thought he looked really good up until the finish, too. He was looking really good. Can't say he was winning the fight, but I can't say he was losing it either. He was in there. I thought he was pressing Bobby very well, and he was landing. But, shit happens. Maybe they'll redo it. I know this happened once with Johnny Bedford versus Hani Yahya, actually. Johnny Bedford knocked Hani Yahya out with a headbutt. They had a rematch a few months later, or sometime later, but still an immediate rematch whenever it took place. It was both of their next fights, and Hani Yahya choked him out. So maybe they'll do a rematch. Yeah, I wouldn't mind it, but it sucks. Sucks for Bobby Green. He got a nice performance in, got what he thought was a finish, and now he's denied the finishing bonus, the winning bonus, whatever the fuck else. And for Jared Gordon, he got knocked out with a headbutt. He's a guy who's been vulnerable in the past. I've questioned his durability. I questioned it coming into this fight, but that's not legitimate. And he's his stock was pretty high after the Paddy Pimblett fight, so hopefully he gets back, maybe a rematch with Bobby Green, but he's definitely going to need some time off because illegal, legal, regardless, he was knocked unconscious. Yasmin Lucindo kind of dominated Brogan Walker. Brogan Walker was, I was impressed with her in this fight, but I thought she was kind of shut out at the same time. Yasmin Lucindo is a better fighter. She was she established her dominance from the beginning. I really like her combinations on the outside. I thought she was faster and more powerful, just overall better than Brogan every which way. And Brogan Walker, she showed her toughness and kind of her gameness too, even though I thought the gap started to widen towards the end. But now Lucindo, she's 1-1 in the UFC, and that one loss was an excellent fight. So the sky's the limit for a 21-year-old that looks like that. And for Brogan, now she's 0-2, but she is an Ultimate Fighter, runner-up, and she's got some solid victories under her belt. I'm sure they'll give her another shot. Jeremiah Wells and Matthew Semmelsberger. This was an awesome fucking fight. I scored it for Jeremiah Wells, and like the judges, I scored it 30-27. But before the bell rang, or right as the bell rang, I said this could easily go to Semmelsberger. Semmelsberger had big moments, really in every round, but especially early on. And Jeremiah Wells had every small moment. And those small moments added up, at least in my book, like I said, because I gave him all 3 rounds. This is one of those fights kind of like Vanderlei Silva versus Mark Hunt. Only that fight, it would have went to Semmelsberger, the guy with the big moments. But the small moments can easily trump the big moments. And Jeremiah Wells was a fucking workhorse. In this fight, I thought he was knocked unconscious 15 seconds into the fight. It looked exactly like Semmelsberger's fights with Jason Witt and Martin Sano. Just a 15-second knockout. But somehow he kept moving, and then he kept fighting, and he kept scratching and clawing, and eventually got Semmelsberger down, slowed him down, and started beating him up. I was really impressed with the ground and pound of Jeremiah Wells. He didn't just fight to survive. He fought to dominate, and I thought he took back those rounds early on, and, he kind of dominated the end, the third round. But still, Semmelsberger was game. I thought he was at a wrestling disadvantage, first and foremost in this fight. But I was impressed with his toughness, cardio, striking, grappling, the triangle anyway at the end and whatever. He kept going. I just thought he was kind of out-hustled. So this was another fight in which Semelsberger lost a decision in the UFC, but he didn't look bad, just like his loss to Morono and his loss to Chaos Williams. Now I think his record's like 3-3 or something, maybe 4-3, but it's not stellar. And despite that, I still consider him one of the best, like, youngsters or whatever. I don't know if he's 30 years old. Maybe he's not that young, but you know what I mean. He's got a good UFC career already, 7 fights or 6 fights. That's pretty long for that's a solid UFC career so far. But he's going to continue growing, and he's going to be around for a long time. And for Jeremiah Wells, the only thing that would keep him from being around is his age. He's 36 years old, which sucks, but I'm 37. But Jeremiah Wells, he's looked perfect so far in the UFC. This fight was the best example of who he is as a fighter. He was tested every which way, and he passed every test. And, he showed he doesn't need to get the finish. He can scratch and claw and win a decision. Awesome fucking fight, even if you scored it for Semelsberger. Ricky Glenn and Christos Giagos. This was a kind of a surprising upset here. I think it was an upset. But Giagos, man, he's a capable athlete. I thought he would have an athletic advantage, but I thought it would dissipate over time, which it may have eventually, but he didn't let it get there. He landed a beautiful combination on Ricky Glenn and got him out of there. I think he finished him off with a big left hook. But Giagos, he's always been a capable, versatile fighter and definitely a solid athlete, and Ricky Glenn is not. And Giagos, man, he looked great here. It wasn't the longest fight, but he showed what he's capable of doing. And to get Ricky Glenn out of there is a really tall order. Nobody's ever knocked him out. This is his first knockout loss. His only 2 finish losses are by submission. So great fucking win for Giagos. He separates himself from the pack in at least one way, being the first guy to get Ricky Glenn out of there. And he prolongs his UFC career. Ricky Glenn, I'm sure he's going to continue his UFC career, but he's 34 now, and he just suffered his first knockout loss, and it didn't really look good either. He was just caught with a big left hand in the middle of a combination and face planted, kind of. So, tough loss for him. I always liked him as a fighter, but hopefully he can regroup and take some time off, but not enough time to the point where he's past his prime, because again, he's 34. Montel Jackson beat Ronnie Yahya. This was kind of how I expected the fight to go, but seeing him actually get finished was something different altogether. Montel Jackson, I think we all expected him to have a distinct stand-up advantage and probably a wrestling advantage in this fight, and that is what we saw, but Ronnie Yahya just hasn't been finished in 15 fucking years, or 14 or whatever it is. So to actually watch him get finished, even at age 38, it was very impressive. Montel Jackson's a capable guy, and he's only got 1 submission. It's over Brian Kelleher. Half his wins are probably by TKO, the other half by decision. He's got good cardio. He's a problem, and he's 30 years old. This is definitely his finest win, but he's nowhere near the best guy he's going to be, which is awesome. And for Ronnie Yahya, he's definitely not going to get any better in my opinion. But I don't know where he goes from here. Maybe he'll retire. If not, maybe he'll take another fight or two. Finally have that fight with Cody Garbrandt, the submission guy versus the knockout guy. But it sucks watching him lose. Norma Dumont beat Carol Hossa. Beat her by decision, and I scored it for Norma Dumont. I scored it for Norma Dumont 29-28, but I did think Carol Hossa got the better of her overall. Still, Norma did win 2 rounds, in my opinion, with physicality. This was a great example of physicality. She bullied her in the clinch, and I thought landed the hardest strikes, especially in close, of course. And in the end, Carol Hossa ended up winning round 3. Dropped her as well, I believe, and really outpointed her steadily. She was a workhorse, but it was too little too late, and not enough to make it a 10-8. So, fight goes 29-28. Norma Dumont. A lot of rhyming there. Muhammad Usman and Junior Tafa. Whatever. Look, Junior, I think we all expected him to be a limited guy, knowing he's a pure striker, and Muhammad Usman is not. But I didn't expect I didn't. I can't say I didn't expect Muhammad Usman to out grapple him and whatever, because I guess I did. But Muhammad Usman's a guy that I don't trust his grappling. I don't trust him to be a grappler for 15 minutes. Here, though, he was able to do it. And after a rough first round, pretty close, but still I scored it for Tafa, especially with that late first round effort. You know, the last few seconds I thought he sealed it. Muhammad Usman turned it up after that, and by turned it up, I mean he slowed the fight down. And he did a good job. Doesn't seem to have too much finishing prowess down there. You know, if he did, I think he would have gotten Junior Tafa out of there, but he had enough to hand him his first loss. So, Muhammad Usman still undefeated in the UFC, and yeah, he's the ultimate fighter. So, upward he goes. William Gomes versus Francis Marshall. This was a pretty close fight. I thought Gomes edged it out, but I feel like it could have gone either way, kind of like Semmelsberger and Wells. Francis Marshall, I thought he would have more of a wrestling advantage in this fight, and I guess he was the better wrestler, but William Gomes largely neutralized him. You know, took away his primary strength, and I thought Gomes generally won the fight by being more effective on the outside. You know, a great kicking game as well, and just stuffing those takedowns. Gomes slightly outpointed Marshall, I'd say. I don't know the fucking stats, but it looked to me like he got the better of him. But Marshall was in that fight, and he's a game fighter. And despite losing here, I was really impressed with this cardio. You know, he seemed to be the better fighter towards the end, working the rear naked and, you know, just generally dominating, but not dominant enough to get a 10-8 again. So Gomes gets the victory and hands him his first loss. Karine Silva and Priscilla Cachoeira. Kind of wish we saw that, but what happened? Priscilla Cachoeira fucked up her weight cut and the fight was canceled. Brady Hiestand took out Dana Bakiri. That was the first fight of the evening. That was an awesome fight. Really close fight. I'd be interested in seeing the scorecards going into the third round. But look, the story of the fight is Brady Hiestand. This guy, say what you will about the score and whatever the fuck else and how bad he looked physically and whatever. He looked awesome in that third round. Awesome. And I thought the commentary was off point there. They were talking about how bad he looked and just, you know, Dana being more powerful, which he was. But like Dana was winning the third round. Brady was winning the third round. And he might have been on his way to winning a decision. Might have been a bullshit decision. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch the fight. But I know Brady definitely wasn't winning. He definitely wasn't winning. He'd lost round 2, probably round 1, although who knows. But round 3, I thought he was winning, and he left no room for any dispute. He took him down, Dana, with a minute and a half or so, 2 minutes left. But it was such a forceful takedown and such a beautiful shot, getting in deep on the hips. Just, it really impressed me. I mean, his grappling impressed me in this fight and in every fight. But he wasn't grappling, you know, since the beginning of the second round, he wasn't grappling. And then at the very end of the third, he takes him down with a beautiful takedown and just overwhelms him. And that ground and pound was fucking exceptional from Brady Hiestand. He wasn't trying to score points. He was trying to get a finish. He fought like a guy who knew he was down 2 rounds to nothing. So 23-year-old kid getting a finish like that, and the way he's looked in every other fight, my opinion of Brady Hiestand is incredibly high. Incredibly fucking high. And I think the world of him. I can't wait to see him fight again. That was a fucking war, and he showed a lot of grit and tenacity that most fighters don't have. So, great win for him. Tough loss for Dana Bakiri. I love that guy, but now it's 3 consecutive losses, which really sucks for him. But I'm sure he'll stick around, just based on his fucking power, which is evident. Guy's a really fun fighter to watch. But yeah, great event altogether. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos.